Scotland does not announce itself gently. It arrives in wind, in rain that comes sideways, in a landscape so old it makes human civilization feel like a footnote. And yet, people have chosen to live here for over 10,000 years. They came after the last ice age, when glaciers a kilometre thick finally retreated and left behind a land of jagged mountains, deep lochs and islands scattered like broken glass across the North Atlantic. What was left was not easy terrain. It was beautiful, yes. But beauty and survivability are not the same thing. And yet, people stayed. They built homes from stone and turf. They fished in waters that could kill them. They farmed soil that was thin and stubborn and cold. They formed clans, spoke a language the rest of the world would try to erase, and created a culture so distinct that even now, centuries after political union with England, Scotland remains unmistakably, defiantly itself. Today, over 5.5 million people call this country home. They live in cities like Glasgow, where the River Clyde once built ships for the entire British Empire. They live in Edinburgh, where a castle sits on an extinct volcano above streets that have seen coronations, executions, and everything between. They live in the Highlands, where the population density drops to fewer than 10 people per square kilometre, and where the nearest neighbour might be a hill away. But what is it actually like? Not the Scotland of holiday brochures and whisky commercials. Not the Scotland of tartan souvenirs and bagpipe gifts. The real one. The one where people wake up, go to work, raise families, cook dinner, and fall asleep to the sound of wind that never quite stops. That is the question this film exists to answer. We are going to travel across this entire country, from the borders in the south to the Outer Hebrides in the west, from the oil platforms of Aberdeen to the fishing villages of Fife. And we are going to look at how people actually live. Not one person's story, everyone's story. The general rhythm of Scottish life, told chapter by chapter, place by place, because Scotland is not one place. It is dozens of places, each with its own weather, its own accent, its own economy, and its own idea of what it means to be Scottish. And by the end of this journey, you will understand why so many people, given the choice to live anywhere on Earth, choose here. But first, you need to understand the land itself, because in Scotland, the land does not sit in the background, it dictates everything. Scotland is roughly 78,000 square kilometres, about the size of the Czech Republic or the state of Maine. But those comparisons are misleading, because Scotland's geography is not normal geography. It is geography that fights back. The country is divided into 3 broad zones: the southern uplands, a chain of rolling hills and moorland that stretches along the border with England; the central belt, a relatively flat strip between the Firth of Forth and the Firth of Clyde, where most of the population actually lives, Glasgow; Edinburgh, Stirling, Dundee, all crammed into this narrow corridor. And then the Highlands and Islands, everything north and west of a line drawn roughly from Stonehaven to Helensburgh, which is where Scotland stops being a country and starts being a wilderness. The Highlands cover more than half of Scotland's land area, but contain less than a quarter of its people. This is where you find Ben Nevis, the highest mountain in the United Kingdom, rising 1,345 metres above sea level near Fort William. This is where you find the Cairngorms, the largest national park in the British Isles, a plateau of granite and heather, so vast and so empty that you can walk for days without seeing a road. And then there are the islands. Scotland has nearly 800 islands, though only about 60 of them are permanently inhabited. The Outer Hebrides, a chain stretching 130 miles from Lewis in the north to Barra in the south, sits in the Atlantic Ocean, 30 miles off the mainland, exposed to some of the strongest winds in Europe. On the island of Tiree, the average wind speed exceeds 25 kilometers per hour year-round. On South Uist, you can watch a storm roll in from the ocean and know, with absolute certainty, that there is nothing between you and Canada except open water. Up north, the Orkney and Shetland Islands sit closer to Norway than to London. Shetland's capital, Lerwick, is at the same latitude as Stockholm. In midwinter, the sun rises around 9 a.m. and sets before 3 p.m. In midsummer, it barely sets at all, what locals call the simmer dim, a kind of permanent twilight that turns the sky amber and gold for hours. The mainland has its own extremes. The west coast is wet. Places like Glen Etive and Glencoe receive over 3,000 millimetres of rain per year, nearly 10 times what London gets. The east coast is drier but colder, and places like Braemar in Aberdeenshire have recorded the lowest temperatures in UK history, dropping to -27 degrees Celsius. And then there is the coastline itself. Scotland has nearly 12,000 kilometres of coastline, longer than India's. Fjords cut deep into the Western Highlands. Sea locks like Loch Fyne and Loch Broom reach miles inland. And the cliffs of the east coast, at places like Dunnottar and Duncansby Head, drop sheer into the North Sea. What all of this means is that in Scotland, you are never far from weather that can kill you. You are never far from water. And you are never more than a few hours from a landscape that makes you feel very, very small. This is the stage on which Scottish life is performed. Every chapter that follows, every home, every meal, every job, every tradition, is shaped by this geography in ways that are not always obvious, but are always present. Take daily life, the thing that most people do every single day, everywhere in the world. In Scotland, even that is different. A typical day in Scotland begins earlier than you might expect. In the cities, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, the rhythm is familiar. Alarm clocks, train commutes, school runs, coffee. The central belt is densely interconnected, and the M8 motorway between Glasgow and Edinburgh is one of the busiest in the UK. But even here, the geography asserts itself. Edinburgh's morning commute includes a view of Arthur's Seat, an ancient volcano that rises directly from the city centre. Glasgow's includes the River Clyde, grey and wide, running through the heart of the city like a scar. In Inverness, the self-proclaimed capital of the Highlands, daily life moves at a different speed. Inverness is one of the fastest growing cities in Europe, but with a population of only around 50,000, it still feels like a large town. People walk more. They know their neighbours. The commute is 10 minutes, not an hour. And the countryside is never more than a 5-minute drive in any direction. Out on the islands, daily life shifts again. On Lewis and Harris, the largest of the Outer Hebrides, Sundays are observed strictly by much of the population. The island is split between a Presbyterian culture that treats the Sabbath as a day of total rest, no work, no transport, no sport, and a more secular community that does not. This creates a weekly rhythm that is unlike anywhere else in the UK. On a Sunday in Stornoway, the main town, you can walk down streets that are almost entirely silent. The Scottish day is also shaped by something the rest of the world finds disorienting: the light. In winter, the days are brutally short. In December, Edinburgh gets about 7 hours of daylight. In Shetland, it is closer to 5. People go to work in the dark and come home in the dark. School children are dropped off under streetlights and picked up under stars. It is not uncommon for people in northern Scotland to go an entire week in winter without seeing the sun during working hours. In summer, the opposite happens. In June, the sky in the far north never fully darkens. Children play outside until midnight. Curtains get thicker. Sleep becomes something you negotiate with the sky. The Scottish diet of daily life, the things people consume routinely, not just ceremonially, reflects the environment. Tea is consumed in enormous quantities. The average Scot drinks between 3 and 4 cups per day. Porridge is a genuine breakfast staple, not a novelty. And the midday meal, historically called dinner in working-class Scotland, is often hot and substantial, while the evening meal, tea, is eaten earlier than in many European countries, often between 5 and 6 p.m. But daily life is not just about what people do, it is about where they come home to. And in Scotland, the idea of home carries a weight that most people never think about, until they see the houses. The Scottish home is an act of defiance against the weather. In the Highlands and Islands, the traditional dwelling was the Black House, a stone-walled, turf-roofed structure with no chimney, where humans and livestock often shared the same roof for warmth. Some of these were still in use on the island of Lewis until the 1970s. You can still see them today, their walls blackened by decades of peat smoke, standing as monuments to a way of life that lasted 1,000 years. Modern Scottish homes are very different, but they carry echoes of that past. Stone is still the dominant building material in much of the country. In places like Aberdeenshire, you see granite houses, solid grey, built to withstand North Sea gales that would tear apart lighter construction. In the Borders, you see sandstone, warmer in colour, in towns like Melrose and Peebles. In the Hebrides, the houses are low, white-painted, and built with their backs to the prevailing wind, the orientation so consistent that you can tell the direction of the Atlantic without looking at a map. Inside, the concept of warmth is almost spiritual. The Scottish living room centres on the fire, or in modern homes, the radiator or stove. The word cosy is used frequently and sincerely. Hygge was popularised by the Danes, but the Scots have been practising it for centuries without a word for it. Family structures in Scotland are similar to the rest of the UK, but there are regional differences. In the Highlands and Islands, families tend to be more extended, multiple generations living within a few miles, sometimes on the same croft, a small agricultural holding that has been in the family for generations. The crofting system, unique to Scotland, gives tenants extraordinary security of tenure and has kept communities alive in places where economics alone would have driven everyone away. In the cities, family life is more nuclear but still tightly knit. Glasgow has a strong tradition of multi-generational living, partly driven by economics and partly by culture. The idea that grandparents are not visitors but daily participants in family life. Sunday dinners, where the whole family gathers, remain common. One thing that surprises many outsiders is the Scottish approach to children. Scottish children are given extraordinary freedom relative to many other developed nations. In rural areas, it is normal for children as young as 7 or 8 to walk to school alone, to play in fields and forests unsupervised, to cycle between villages. The culture assumes that the world is generally safe, that risk is part of growing up, and that wrapping children in cotton wool does them no favours. And then there is the concept of home itself. In Scotland, the word is loaded. Home is not just where you live, it is where you are from. And where you are from, which village, which glen, which island, tells people everything they need to know about you. Your accent, your loyalties, your sense of self, all rooted in a place that might have fewer than 100 people but which, to you, is the centre of the world. But people do not live on identity alone, they eat. And in Scotland, what they eat tells a story of poverty, resilience, and reinvention. Scottish food has an image problem, and it is partly deserved. The deep-fried Mars bar is real, though it originated as a joke and is consumed by a tiny fraction of the population. Haggis, sheep's heart, liver, and lungs mixed with oatmeal and spices boiled in a sheep's stomach, is genuinely a national dish and genuinely delicious, though its appearance does it no favours. But this is the surface. The reality is deeper. Scotland produces some of the finest raw ingredients in the world. The waters around the Hebrides yield langoustine, scallops and crab that are exported to Michelin-starred restaurants across Europe. Aberdeen Angus beef is recognised globally. The rivers, the Spey, the Tay, the Dee, produce wild salmon that was once so abundant it was fed to farm labourers as part of their wages. In Edinburgh, the food scene has exploded in the last 2 decades. The city now has more restaurants per capita than any city in the UK outside London. Scottish fine dining, places like The Kitchen, Restaurant Andrew Fairley and Timber Yard, has earned international recognition by doing something simple, cooking Scottish ingredients with respect and precision. But the real food culture is not in the fine dining. It is in the everyday. Porridge made with oats and water or milk, salted, not sweetened. This is the bedrock. Oats are to Scotland what rice is to Japan. They grow where wheat cannot, they keep through winter, and they sustain. Bannocks, oatcakes, skirlie, all variations on the same theme. Then there is the seafood culture of the fishing villages. In Anstruther, on the Fife coast, the Anstruther Fish Bar has been serving haddock and chips to queues of people since the 1960s. In Ullapool, on the northwest coast, the catch comes off the boats and goes straight into the smokehouse. In Stornoway, black pudding, made from pork blood, oatmeal and suet, is so culturally significant that it has protected geographical indicator status, the same legal protection given to champagne. And then there is whisky. Scotland has over 140 active whisky distilleries, producing a spirit that is exported to 180 countries and generates over $7 billion for the UK economy annually. But whisky is not just a product in Scotland, it is a language. People talk about it the way others talk about wine, the peat, the cask, the region. Islay whiskies are smoky and medicinal. Speyside whiskies are light and floral. Highland whiskies are broad and complex. The village of Cregalachi, on the River Spey, sits at the heart of it all, surrounded by distilleries that have been operating for over 2 centuries. But food and drink are only one layer of culture. The deeper layer, the one that holds everything together, is the social fabric. And in Scotland, that fabric is woven in very specific ways. Scotland's economy has been reinvented so many times that reinvention itself is the tradition. For centuries, the Highlands operated on a subsistence economy, crofting, fishing, kelp gathering. Then came the clearances, when landlords evicted thousands of tenant farmers to make way for sheep, and an entire way of life was dismantled in the name of commercial agriculture. The population of the Highlands has never recovered to its pre-clearance levels. In Sutherland, you can still see the ruined walls of cleared villages, the stones cold and silent on the moor. Then came industry. Glasgow built ships. At its peak in the early 20th century, a fifth of all the ships in the world were launched on the River Clyde. Dundee was the jute capital of the world, processing millions of tons of raw fibre from India into sacks and rope. The coal fields of central Scotland powered the British Empire. Then that ended too. The shipyards declined, the jute mills closed, the coal mines were shut. By the 1980s and 1990s, Scotland faced the same deindustrialisation crisis as Northern England and the American Rust Belt, with the same consequences: unemployment, despair, fractured communities. But Scotland rebuilt. Today, Edinburgh is the second largest financial centre in the UK and the fourth largest in Europe. Aberdeen is the oil and gas capital of Europe, with an offshore industry that has pumped billions into the economy since the 1970s, though one that now faces an uncertain future as the world transitions to renewable energy. Glasgow has become a centre for technology, life sciences, and creative industries. The video game industry, in particular, has a surprising Scottish footprint. Rockstar North, the studio behind Grand Theft Auto, is based in Edinburgh. In the Highlands, the economy has shifted toward tourism, renewable energy, and remote work. Wind farms now dot the landscape from Dumfries and Galloway to Caithness, and Scotland generates enough wind power to meet nearly all of its electricity needs on a good day. The North Coast 500, a 500-mile scenic route around the Northern Highlands, has become one of the most popular road trips in the world, bringing tourist revenue to communities that had been economically marginal for generations. And yet, challenges remain. Rural depopulation is a real and ongoing threat. Young people leave the islands for universities and jobs on the mainland, and many do not come back. The average age in parts of the Outer Hebrides is now over 50. Finding a plumber on Harris or a teacher on Rum is not a minor inconvenience. It is a structural problem that threatens the survival of communities. Work in Scotland, then, is not one story. It is many stories, layered on top of each other, old industries and new ones, rural struggle and urban reinvention, oil wealth and renewable ambition. But the economy is only half of life. The other half is what people do when they are not working. And in Scotland, that is where the culture reveals its true depth. The Scottish social world is built on three pillars: community, music, and celebration. Community in Scotland is not abstract, it is practical. In the Highlands and Islands, neighbours help each other in ways that would seem extraordinary in a city. A crofter needs a fence mended, the neighbours come. A boat engine breaks down, someone knows someone who can fix it. The concept is called co-op or neighbourly, but it goes deeper than a word. It is survival turned into culture. In the cities, community takes different forms. Glasgow is famous for its patter, a rapid, witty, often self-deprecating style of conversation that serves as both entertainment and social bonding. To understand Glasgow is to understand that the conversation itself is the point. You do not talk to exchange information. You talk to connect, to joke, to test, to include. Music is the second pillar. Scotland has a folk tradition that is alive in a way few European folk traditions are. In pubs in Stirling, in village halls on Barra, in the bars of Edinburgh's Grassmarket, you can still hear session musicians playing fiddles, accordions, and Gaelic songs that have been passed down orally for generations. The Tailith, a traditional social gathering with music and dancing, is not a tourist attraction. It is a genuine social institution. At a Scottish wedding, the Tailith is mandatory. Everyone dances. Everyone, from 8 to 80. And the dances, the gay Gordons, the dashing white sergeant, the strip the willow, are known by heart by almost everyone in the room. The third pillar is celebration. Scotland has its own national holidays that the rest of the UK does not observe. St Andrew's Day on November 30th. Burns Night on January 25th, when the nation celebrates the poet Robert Burns with haggis, whisky, and the recitation of Address to a Haltie. And then there is Hogmanay, the Scottish New Year, which is not merely a night out, but a multi-day festival of first footing, where the first person to enter your home after midnight determines your luck for the year. Hogmanay in Edinburgh is the largest New Year celebration in the world, with over 100,000 people filling the city centre. But the real Hogmanay is in the villages, in places like Comrie in Perthshire, where the entire town processes through the streets with torches, or in the pubs of Stromness in Orkney, where the celebration can last for days. And then there is the Highland Games. From May to September, towns across Scotland, from Braemar, where the royal family attends every year, to tiny village greens in Argyll, host gatherings of carber tossing, hammer throwing, pipe bands, and Highland dancing. These are not reenactments. They are living traditions, competitive and fierce, with families training for generations. Social life in Scotland, then, is not optional. It is the architecture that holds everything else up. Remove it, and the communities would collapse. But no place is without its shadows, and Scotland's shadows are deep. Scotland has a drug death rate that is the highest in the developed world. In 2023, over 1,000 people died from drug-related causes, a staggering figure for a country of 5.5 million. The crisis is concentrated in the most deprived areas of Glasgow, Dundee, and parts of Fife, and it is the product of decades of deindustrialisation, poverty, and policy failure. It is the ugly truth that sits beneath the tourist imagery, and it does not get enough attention. Then, there is depopulation. The Highlands and Islands have been losing people for over 200 years, since the clearances, and the trend has never fully reversed. The population of the Western Isles has fallen by nearly half since 1900. On islands like Eigg and Rum, entire communities have had to be rebuilt from scratch. The issue is not just that young people leave, it is that the infrastructure to support them if they stayed is thin. schools that are too small, housing that is too expensive relative to local wages, internet that is too slow, ferries that are too unreliable. And the ferries are a real issue. Scotland's island communities depend on Calmac, the state-owned ferry operator, to connect them to the mainland. But the fleet is aging, new vessels are years behind schedule, and cancellations due to weather or mechanical failure are routine. In 2023, the island of Islay, home to 8 whisky distilleries and 3,000 people, was cut off for days when both of its ferries broke down simultaneously. The economic and social impact of these failures is enormous. There is also the weather itself. Scotland's climate is not just uncomfortable, it is isolating. In winter, island communities can be cut off for days. Roads in the Highlands close. Power lines come down. And the psychological weight of the dark, the months of grey skies and short days, is real. Seasonal affective disorder is a genuine public health issue, particularly in the far north. And then there is the housing crisis. In rural areas, second homes and holiday rentals have driven prices beyond what local wages can support. In places like Skye and Tiree, the proportion of second homes is so high that young families cannot find anywhere to live. The community that gives a place, its character is priced out of existence, replaced by holidaymakers who are there for 2 weeks a year. And finally, there is the question of Scotland's future itself. The constitutional question. Independence remains the defining political issue in Scottish life, and it divides families, friendships, and communities. It is not an abstract debate. It is about identity, economics, borders, currency, Europe, and what it means to be a nation. It is unresolved, and it may remain unresolved for a generation. No paradise is without its shadows, but the shadows are only part of the picture. Because what is also true, what is perhaps more true, is that Scotland is a country in the middle of a transformation. Scotland is not a museum. It is easy to frame it that way. The castles, the kilts, the bagpipes, the whisky, and those things are real and valued. But they exist alongside a country that is building offshore wind farms the size of skyscrapers, that has a tech sector growing faster than London's, that was the first nation in the world to make sanitary products free in all public buildings, and that has committed to net zero emissions by 2045, 5 years ahead of the rest of the UK. In Glasgow, the modern city is visible in the regeneration of the Clydeside, where derelict shipyards have become media quarters and science parks. The SSE Hydro, a 13,000-seat arena, sits on the site of what was once a shipyard. The contrast is not subtle, but it is deliberate. In Aberdeen, the oil industry is slowly, painfully transitioning to renewables. The same engineering skills that built North Sea oil platforms are now being redirected to offshore wind. The city is at a crossroads, too dependent on oil to abandon it, too aware of its decline to ignore the future. In the Highlands, the digital revolution has enabled something that would have been impossible a generation ago: remote work. People are moving to places like Skye, Mull, and the Black Isle, not to retire, but to work. Software developers, designers, writers, consultants, all running businesses from communities that were, until recently, economically dependent on fishing and farming. The challenge is that this influx drives up house prices and strains local infrastructure, creating tension between newcomers and locals. In the Hebrides, the Gaelic language is both a tradition and a modern battleground. Gaelic medium education has grown significantly. There are now Gaelic schools in Glasgow and Edinburgh, as well as in the islands, but the number of native speakers continues to decline. The language is simultaneously being preserved and lost, a paradox that defines much of modern Scottish life. What you see in Scotland today is a country holding two versions of itself in tension. The traditional Scotland, the crofting community, the Caelid, The clan system, the Kirk, and the modern Scotland, the fintech hub, the renewable energy pioneer, the progressive social policy laboratory. These two Scotlands do not always agree, but they coexist, and in some places, they merge. A software developer in Stornoway who works on global projects by day and attends a Gaelic church service on Sunday is not a contradiction. He is modern Scotland. But why? Why do all of this? The fighting against depopulation, the weather, the economic challenges, the political uncertainty, in this particular place? Why stay? Ask anyone who lives in Scotland, really lives there, not visits, why they stay, and you will not get a simple answer. You will get a story. Some will talk about the landscape, the way the light hits the Quillen Hills on Skye at sunset, the way the water in Loch Mary is so clear you can see the bottom 20 feet down, the way the moorland turns purple with heather in August, covering entire hillsides in a colour that exists nowhere else. Some will talk about community, the fact that in a Highland village, you are never alone, the fact that when someone dies, the whole town shows up, the fact that your children can still walk to school and you do not have to be afraid. Some will talk about identity. Scotland is a nation, not a region. It has its own legal system, its own education system, its own church, its own flag. To be Scottish is not a subset of being British. It is its own thing, ancient and specific and non-negotiable. Some will talk about the quality of life. Scottish cities are smaller, less frantic, more livable than their English counterparts. Glasgow has the cultural energy of a city twice its size, but the geography of somewhere you can cross in 40 minutes. Edinburgh is one of the most beautiful cities on earth. Aberdeen is 20 minutes from some of the most dramatic coastline in the country, and many, will not be able to articulate it at all. They will say something like, "It's just home," and that will be enough. Because in the end, that is what Scotland offers. Not perfection, not ease, not even always prosperity, but a sense of place so deep that it becomes part of who you are. A landscape that humbles you daily. A community that holds you when things go wrong. A culture that has survived clearances, deindustrialization, emigration, and centuries of political subordination, and is still here, still singing, still dancing, still arguing, still alive. Scotland is not an easy place to live. It is a place that asks something of you. It asks you to endure the dark, to respect the weather, to know your neighbours, to remember where you came from, to hold tradition and progress in the same hand without dropping either. 5.5 million people make that choice every day, not because they have no other option, but because this wind-bitten, rain-soaked, heartbreakingly beautiful country is where they belong. And maybe that is the real answer. Not why do people stay, but how could they leave? If you could wake up tomorrow anywhere in Scotland, Edinburgh's old town, a Hebridean croft, a Glasgow tenement, a Highland bothy, where would you choose? One word below.